This is a reading of the Fort Osage Novice Set, number 2, which came out in 2017. Number 1. The 1970 Supreme Court case Oregon v. Mitchell preceded this law, which Senator Harley Kilgore had first advocated for in 1941, with the support of the First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. Georgia and Kentucky were the first states to alter the age required by this law, which led to the 1970 challenge by Oregon in order to clarify the difference in this based on federal and state elections. For 10 points, name this law, prompted in part due to the average 19-year-old age of an American soldier in Vietnam that reduced the overall voting age from 21 to 18. Answer: the 26th Amendment. Number 2. This process results in blebbing and the degradation of the cell as it occurs in multicellular organisms. This process is the result of Cas-base cascade and can be activated by the tumor necrosis factor. Unlike necrosis, this process is highly regulated and controlled, but can lead to cancer if it does not proceed at a normal rate. This process can confer advantages on an organism during its life cycle. For 10 points, name this process of programmed cell death that can occur along both extrinsic and intrinsic pathways. Answer: apoptosis. Number 3. This event began when the military closed 2 bridges in its largest city, and jet fighters circled low over it and its capital city. The prime minister of the nation where this event occurred appeared on television to announce it, while military elements of the Peace at Home Council claimed to have been the instigators of it. The president himself spoke to the nation on the FaceTime app proclaiming that this event had failed. For 10 points, name this July 2016 event in which members of the military attempted to overthrow President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of the namesake Middle Eastern NATO nation by occupying Istanbul and Ankara. And the answer is the Turkish coup attempt. Number 4. This biblical book is thought to have drawn upon multiple sources, including the book that immediately follows it. This biblical gospel is the only one to describe the, quote, massacre of the innocents, unquote, by King Herod, and features 5 divided blocks of narrative and discourse, each of which is marked off with the phrase, when Jesus had finished. For 10 points, name this gospel, thought to be inspired by the Gospel of Mark, as well as the M source and Q source, the first book of the New Testament. Answer: the Gospel of Matthew. Number 5. One character in this novella states, words are the source of misunderstandings, when describing how he is to be, quote, tamed, unquote, by the protagonist. The protagonist of this novella meets a lamplighter who lights and relights his lamp every minute while traveling from his home asteroid to Earth seeking a sheep. That protagonist of this novella ends up crash landing in the Sahara Desert where he meets the narrator and unnamed pilot. For 10 points, name this novella about a denizen of asteroid B-612 who tames a fox and discovers friendship by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And the answer is The Little Prince. Number 6. The southeastern shore of this large body of water contains the Natapaska Arc, long thought to have been an ancient impact crater. This body of water contains the Belcher Islands and is largely frozen for half the year. A namesake lowlands area covers the western land along this body of water, which contains James Bay at its southernmost portion. For 10 points, name this large bay lying between Ontario and Quebec and mostly inhabited by First Nations peoples. named for the English explorer who was abandoned by his crew here in 1611. And the answer is the Hudson Bay. Number 7. This event temporarily trapped famed tenor Enrico Caruso for a time and was one of the catalysts for the Panic of 1907. This event permanently altered the course of the Salinas River, and the city in which this event occurred was the largest on the west coast of the United States at the time. Fires in this event's aftermath caused about 90% of its destruction, including the famous Palace Hotel and the flag used in the 1846 Bear Flag Revolt. For 10 points, name this April 1906 event, which largely destroyed the namesake city, whose fires are commemorated in its logo of a phoenix. And the answer for that question is the San Francisco earthquake. Number 8. The man who commissioned this building had crowned himself emperor in the same city in which it is located in 1628. This building is the centerpiece of a 42-acre complex, with 4 minarets forming the corners of its courtyard. This building's famous white dome was covered in scaffolding during World War II to protect it from Japanese bombers, but a current concern is over pollution, which has caused that dome to turn yellow. For 10 points, name this structure, built along the Yamuna River by Shah Jahan as a memorial for his wife Mumtaz, located in Agra, India. And the answer is the Taj Mahal. Number 9. A theorem named after this states that for 2 endpoints of a function, there is always a tangent along that function parallel to the secant of the endpoints. In the Poisson distribution, this quantity is equal to the variance and is denoted mu for population. This quantity's geometric form is the square root of the product of 2 numbers. For 10 points, name this quantity contrasted with median and mode, whose arithmetic type is equal to the sum of a set of values divided by the number of values. And the answer is mean. Average is also acceptable. Number 10. This man argued with Robert Hooke over the nature of the color spectrum. This scientist formulated an empirical law of cooling that stated that the rate of which an object cooled down was proportional to its surroundings. This man was also the warden and master of the Royal Mint and stated that the force of gravitational attraction between 2 objects depended on the distance between them and their masses. For 10 points, name this English scientist, most famous for his 3 laws of motion and his work Principia Mathematica. And the answer is Isaac Newton. Number 11. In one myth about this deity, 2 giants named Otis and Ephialtes locked this god away in a bronze urn until he was freed by Hermes. During the Trojan War, this god was struck with a boulder by his sister in order to prevent him from interfering in the conflict. This god, whose affair with his sister Aphrodite produced 8 children, including Phobos, Deimos, and Harmonia, was symbolized by a spear and helmet during the Renaissance era. For 10 points, name this god of war, the son of Zeus and Hera, whose counterpart in Roman mythology was Mars. And the answer is Ares.